You ever have one of those days when you just want to relax, maybe take your pontoon boat out on the lake, and suddenly your whole world turns upside down? That was me. Picture this. A sunny afternoon, the lake sparkling, birds chirping, and then, bam! A $5,000 fine slapped on me by my own homeowners association. Just for pontooning. Yes, pontooning. Sounds absurd, right? But wait, that was only the start of it. What really got me was the sheer audacity of the HOA's letter, dripping with rules and restrictions that seemed designed to punish rather than protect. You know that feeling when the people who are supposed to serve you instead try to control every little thing you do? That's the injustice that lit the fire under me. But here's the twist. I didn't just pay the fine. No, that would be too easy. I realized something huge, something that would flip the entire situation on its head. Let's just say, if you think a $5,000 slap on the wrist is the end of it, think again. Because what happened next? Well, it was poetic justice served cold. Stick around, because I'm about to tell you how I bought the lake. And fined the HOA $1 million for trespassing. Let me set the stage. I live in a quiet lakeside community. The kind where everyone knows each other. Or at least, they think they do. Our HOA was that invisible hand guiding the neighborhood, ensuring the rules were fair. Or so we thought. The lake? It was our pride, our weekend escape, a shimmering gem nestled right behind our homes. I bought my pontoon boat last summer, looking forward to lazy afternoons and peaceful waters. But what I didn't realize was that the HOA was watching and waiting. Enter the antagonist, the HOA board president, a woman who could have been the poster child for Karen if Karen had a clipboard and a badge. Let's call her Linda. Linda took her HOA role very seriously. Too seriously, maybe. From the moment I got my pontoon, she started sending notes, emails, and warnings. Pontoon boats are prohibited. Lake access is limited. No unauthorized watercraft. The subtlety was gone. One day I tried to ask her about the rules, hoping for clarity. Instead, I got a cold, rehearsed lecture about community standards and property values. The tension built quietly, like storm clouds gathering. Then came the letter. $5,000 fine. Payable within 30 days. No appeal. No discussion. That was just the beginning. As if the fine wasn't enough. Suddenly, my dock was under review. My neighbors, who once smiled and waved, now gave me cold stares. The HOA meetings became battlegrounds. Linda and her cronies seemed to relish the control. The absurdity of it all was almost laughable, if it weren't so infuriating. I knew I had to do something bigger, something smarter. And that's when the real story begins. Things escalated faster than I expected. After the fine, the HOA didn't stop. They started issuing more fines, for minor violations like leaving my pontoon docked too long or even for unauthorized parking near the lake. They threatened to cut off my lake access. One evening, I found a no trespassing sign slapped right on my dock. I mean, how ridiculous can you get? It was as if they wanted to erase me from the community. My neighbors, caught in the middle, whispered warnings. Be careful, they said. They're ruthless. One even told me about a family that left after the HOA pushed too hard. Despite the madness, I had a few small victories. I challenged some fines and got them revoked, showing cracks in their armor. But then came sabotage. Someone, probably an HOA loyalist, damaged my pontoon's motor. The message was clear. Back off. The emotional roller coaster was real. Some days, I felt defeated. Other days, downright furious. Humor was my coping mechanism. I joked to friends, at this rate they'll fine me for breathing lake air next. But I wasn't ready to fold. Each absurd fine, each petty threat just fueled my resolve. The fight wasn't just about me anymore. It was about standing up to an overreaching power. So I started planning. Something big. Something the HOA wouldn't see coming. Here's where the calm before the storm hits. After weeks of collecting evidence, copies of every letter, photos of damaged property, witness statements, I realized the HOA's power came from one thing: control over the lake access rights. So, I did some digging. Turns out, The HOA didn't actually own the lake. At least, not entirely. The ownership was split between the HOA and several private individuals, one of whom happened to be me. Yes, you heard right. I bought the lake. Well, a significant portion of it anyway, legally and properly. Suddenly, the tables were turning. I began quietly securing ownership while keeping my moves under wraps. When it was official, I sent the HOA a notice. There no trespassing signs? Illegal. Their fines? Unenforceable on my property. Then came the visual proof, a big, bold private property sign right on my shoreline. I even invited a local reporter for a feature story on HOA overreach. At the next HOA meeting, I made my move. I presented legal documents showing my ownership, my rights, and the consequences if they continued their harassment. Linda's smug smile faltered for the first time. The HOA's grip on the lake was cracking. I felt a calm confidence I hadn't had in months. This was more than a battle over a pontoon. This was a lesson in power, rights, and standing your ground. The final confrontation came quietly, but powerfully. I filed a formal complaint against the HOA for trespassing and harassment, seeking $1 million in damages. Not for me, but as a statement to the whole community. The HOA board was stunned. Their letters stopped. Their meetings turned defensive. Neighbors started whispering, asking if the tide had finally turned. On the day the court ruling came down, I was at the lake, watching the sun set behind the water. The judge sided with me, ruling that the HOA had no right to fine me or restrict my lake access. The $1 million fine against the HOA for trespassing was symbolic but impactful. It sent a message that community rules cannot trample individual rights. I remember standing there, pontoon ready, and saying to the gathering crowd, "Justice isn't about winning a fight. It's about knowing when to fight and how to win it smart." The neighborhood breathed a collective sigh of relief. Linda and her allies faded into the background, their power diminished. Looking back, this saga taught me more than just about property rights. It's about resilience and courage when faced with unfairness. You don't have to accept injustice quietly. Sometimes, you have to push back with brains, evidence, and patience. And maybe, just maybe, buy a little lake on the side for leverage. So here's my takeaway. When life fines you $5,000 for pontooning, don't just pay it. Find your way to turn the tide. It's about standing up with calm confidence, knowing the rules, and never underestimating your power. Now, I want to hear from you. What would you have done if your HOA fined you for enjoying your own lake? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And hey, if you made it to the end of this wild ride, comment, "Justice served." Let's keep the conversation going. Because in the end, everyone deserves their slice of the lake and their moment of victory. Moral of the story: when faced with unfairness or overreach, don't just accept it. Stand your ground with knowledge, patience, and strategy. True power comes not from conflict, but from knowing your rights and using them wisely. Sometimes the best way to win is to outsmart the system, not just fight it.